People often ask me for my rustic bread recipe, so for all you visual learners, this video is for you. The challenge of this recipe is that it takes 9 hours, so if you want to have bread tonight, you have to start early. 360 grams of water, 500 grams of flour, 4 grams of yeast, 11 grams of kosher salt, you want your water to be somewhere between 100 and 110 degrees. I know, everything was metric until this point. People often ask me, do you really have to be this precise with your measurements? And the answer is yes. Also, there will be no more questions. So step one is to take your water and just mix it in with the flour. Mix it until it looks like this, and then let it sit for 15 minutes, allowing the water and the flour to combine. Sorry, I forgot to mention that you should cover it. After 15 minutes, it's time to add the yeast and the salt. We simply pour them into the bowl and then mix them up by hand. Mixing them up by hand means running your hand under some water to get it wet and simply mushing the dough together, incorporating this yeast and this salt. You might say, Tom, we were so careful to measure out these ingredients, and now you're just throwing in some more water, getting your hand wet and adding water to this mix? Well, yes, in fact, I'm going to get some more water on my hand because it's getting a little sticky. You see, try our best. There's still some things out of our control. The humidity, the temperature, the phase of the moon, Coriolis effect, La Nina, things that we just can't account for. So we do our best. We measure as close as we can and just hope that chaos theory takes care of the rest. Okay, that's incorporated nicely. Now we're going to let it sit for 20 minutes. After the first 20 minutes, we have to do the first fold, which is really simple. You just grab each side, turn it 90 degrees, fold it over, and then cover it back up for another 20 minutes. I spend 20 more minutes, put a little bit of water on my hands to keep the dough from sticking, and once again, we just go to each side of the dough, pull it up, and flop it over. And if the dough doesn't want to stretch, then I pick it up and I make it stretch. I get a little more water from my hands to keep them from sticking. And after folding it over, I just make a nice ball like that. And now for the long wait. We have to let this rise for 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours. My oven has a bread proof setting, which puts the oven at 95 degrees. So I'm going to use that to help my dough rise. I'm going to put my dough in the oven for 5 hours. It's been 5 hours, and you can see what a bubbly, delicious smelling bowl of dough we have here. I'm going to dump it out on my heavily floured surface. Hopefully it'll just fall right out of the container. Come on. And I'll get the rest of it here. Remember that folding we did before? Let's do it again. I'm gonna get some flour on my hands. Stretch, 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 and stretch. And then I'm going to take my bread thing and shove the dough underneath itself to a ball. And this technique pushes the dough underneath and makes the top nice and taut. And then I have this proofing bowl that's also has lots of flour on it. And I'm gonna drop it right in there. And I put a lot of flour on the top because I'm gonna cover it with a towel. And then guess what? We let it rise for 1 more hour. The bread has been rising for an hour. See how nice it looks? And hopefully that we floured everything enough so it pops right out. And we pop it out onto this parchment paper. Oh man, look how good that looks. Okay, we pop it out on this parchment paper because we're gonna load it up into this Dutch oven. Can you see that? Not really. I don't wanna. Can you see that? All right. And then we put the lid on. The oven's at 425. And we cook it for 20 minutes with the lid on. And then after 20 minutes, take the lid off and let it cook for about 15 more minutes until the top gets nice and brown. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. So 15 more minutes. Okay, it's been another 20 minutes. I tried it 15 minutes, but it wasn't done yet. Okay, here we go. So we can tell it's done because the temperature internally is going to be 202 degrees. And I know I'm not showing this to you, but it reads 202. Oops, 204. 205. Oh well. 205 degrees. We came close. The big reveal. Is that beautiful or what? Okay, gang, one more note. Once this is done cooking, you still have to let it sit on this wire rack and cool off. It's still hot and gummy inside, and until it cools off, it won't be ready.